Thank you, everybody, for joining me today. I'm Sandy, and today's episode is a difficult one, as it is the most personal to me. And it's a difficult time of year for those of us who are missing irreplaceable loved ones. I have to say that even though it's been 4 years since my son Ryan passed, it doesn't get any easier to revisit that painful day. But I feel that in today's episode, as will be the case in many episodes to come, I think it's important to revisit the event that was so transformative, to share with those of you who have tuned in, who may be especially in the early stages of a significant loss, to know that even though it feels like you might not even be able to bear the weight of those emotional waves that roll over you at the most unexpected times, that in time, in your own time, you will get through it. And by sharing parts of my story today, I'm hoping that you'll be able to see where I started and how far I've come. And it is always going to be a work in progress. It never, ever is going to get easier, no matter how much time passes. My son is still not going to be physically with us, but over time, we're learning to adapt to the weight of the pain of that loss that we carry with us each day. And also in ways that are amazing. We forge a new relationship, a new connection. And we carry Ryan's spirit with us in our heart into each new adventure, into each new chapter of our lives. And like I said, it is a work in progress. Some days are a lot harder than others. And recording this episode was really, really difficult. In fact, it's taken me about 4 days. Lots of tissues and lots of starts and lots of stops. But I hope that when I'm through, that those of you who are especially finding yourself in this difficult place at this time of year, that you will find hope. So let's get started. Before I go any further, I want to acknowledge anyone who may have found their way to our channel because you are going through a personal loss. And I know from experience, words don't help to ease the pain. but perhaps something that I say might resonate with you or bring you some small measure of comfort. I feel it's an important time to have as many voices as possible, helping people to feel supported and validated with all of the challenges that we are facing right now. I am here because of a life-changing event that was so powerful. It changed the trajectory of my life, I feel, in so many meaningful ways. And it led me to this place where I am today, talking to you about difficult things, those challenging times in life that have the power to really break you wide open. And when you find yourself in that space, you realize that all you can do is, in time, begin to rise from the ashes. And so here I am. My life-changing event is forever going to mark my life, in that the person I was before that date largely no longer exists. And all of it is a result of losing my firstborn and oldest son, Ryan, on September 4th, 2021. He passed suddenly, leaving all who loved him blindsided. There was no preparation, and nothing could have ever given us any indication that this would be something that we all would need to live through in our lives. I was racked with a physical and emotional and spiritual agony that I never had experienced in my life. And like I pointed out, and like I probably don't need to point out, I am of a certain age. I've lived through some very challenging things in my life, from divorce to the challenges of single parenthood to being a stage 3 cancer survivor, and also losing irreplaceable loved ones in my life before my son passed, including both sets of my grandparents, extended family members that were family to me, close friends, and the most recent before Ryan was the sudden passing of my dad in 2006 of a heart attack the day after my youngest sister was married. So we were all celebrating and dancing and having a beautiful evening. And 24 hours later, my dad was taken from us. And again, nothing could have prepared us for that. And at that time, I thought there couldn't have been anything more painful to endure than losing my dad. But I was wrong, because losing my son was another level of pain that I had never experienced before. It really was just an all-encompassing physical agony. And just getting through the day-to-day with that pain in my heart that I was carrying around. And I continue to carry, but I have found ways to cope with it, and that's part of what this podcast is going to hopefully share, not just my story and how I am moving through grief and what is working for me and tools that might be helpful for some of you, but other stories, all types of loss. It's painful when something that you love is no longer a part of your life, or something that you rely on, such as your income or your profession or your home, are no longer available to you. And there are millions tonight wondering what their future is going to look like. They're wondering if they're going to be able to keep a roof over their head. pay their bills, if they are in the middle of a health crisis, if they're going to be able to afford to continue to have health coverage. On top of that, some of those same people are grappling with grief from loss of a loved one. My son passed during the tail end of COVID when restrictions were starting to loosen up a little bit. But I remember you think so many crazy things when you are in the midst of that agony. And just a random thought hit me while I was just racked with this pain. I thought, my God, how has humanity survived COVID? How are we functioning as a world? I know just in the United States alone, millions of families lost loved ones just over that 2-year period. And in that moment, I felt a kinship with that group of people who were in pain like I was because of a loss of a loved one that is irreplaceable. And I also felt I was just in awe of the strength and the resilience of the human spirit. That how were we surviving that collective pain, but yet we were. And ever since then, I've been thinking about the millions of people who lost their loved ones at the same time that I lost Ryan. And I wonder if they, like me, if they have had this tug at their heart, if they have been feeling drawn to make a difference in some way. Shared Tears has been, for me, it has been a gift, a place where I have been able to sink the pain of my loss into something that I hope will at some point make a difference. I really long for that. I long to help others as I was helped especially during my early days of looking at YouTube with examples of people who were going through something that I was going through. I needed to see examples of proof of survival, and I needed hope that I would get through the dark nights of the soul that visited me many, many nights. I questioned everything. Everything I thought I knew, everything I thought I valued, everything was on the table. And I did a lot of housekeeping internally and also in my surroundings. I changed things up a lot. And I am not a person who skims across the surface in life. I like to look at things from all different angles, take deep dives. I don't shy away from hard things. I never have. And I didn't shy away from the pain of the loss of my son or any of the other challenges that I faced in my life. I take some deep dives. And it's in those deep reflective moments, which I think are so important for people who are going through just really significant challenges in life, to not shy away, even though it's so tempting to run and to escape, to really face it and to look at it from all different angles and to try to find perspectives that will help move you through the fire, to help propel you through the fire, not to run away from it. That is the way that you actually are able to acquire wisdom and experience that you might be able to later share with others by really spending time with that life event that has so much power to transform you and to help you reevaluate. It's like a rite of passage. You're one person one day and then the next like you step through a doorway and you're an entirely different being in the making. I spent a lot of time reflecting on my life and what was important and where I had invested my time, how I had invested my time, and who I had invested my time with. And also, there's balance in everything, right? So connection is also important. Connection for me in the beginning was more challenging because there just simply weren't any words for me to really have a conversation. And that brings me to the amazing story behind our domain name, Shared Tears. And this is incredible. And please don't judge me when you're going through it. You just have to do what you need to do to get through it. And like I said, in episode 1, I am not a person who believes in coincidences. I'm a synchronicity and signs type of person. I do lean into the idea of a power greater than myself, and I certainly had to lean into that going through the loss of my son and challenges in my life. I'm not a traditionally religious person, but I've always, from a really early age, I have felt connected to a power greater than myself. And I have come to really define it as just love in its purest form. And that energy and power has supported me through some very, very difficult things in my life. And I have leaned into it, that next level assistance to get through the loss of my son. And also, I want to clarify this too. When I say that I lost my son, I lost him physically, and I will long for his physical presence, the hugs, everything he brought to the table for the rest of my life. It's irreplaceable. He was a character. He was my firstborn, my oldest son. And when he was born, I was 19. His birth introduced me to that fierce, protective mother's love that I had inside of me. And that love just continued to grow and expand with the birth of my other children and with the love of important people in my life. That love just keeps expanding. It doesn't contract. It just grows. And Ryan was responsible for me finding out just the depth of the love that was inside of me. He gave that to me. We have not lost Ryan. We carry him in our hearts every day, and I will certainly be bringing him along during each episode. In fact, I always thought he should have been a podcaster. He had a fantastic voice, a wicked sense of humor, a photographic memory, and he just would have been fantastic as a podcaster. So I will definitely be carrying him with me as moral support into each episode and also into each new adventure and new chapter in my life. We all are. So Ryan will never be lost to us. Almost immediately after Ryan passed, I started wanting to see signs that he was okay. And I know for a lot of you who don't believe in that, just kind of maybe fast forward through the next couple of minutes because, or just bear with me. It's an important part of how I was able to get through. And so I was looking for signs everywhere, and strangely, I would find them. Amazing stories about that for other episodes, and even another YouTube channel that is separate from this. But about 6 months after Ryan was gone, not in the literal sense, but not in spirit, I woke up at about 2 a.m. from a dead sleep, and I heard, clear as day, sharedtears.com. It woke me up out of a dead sleep. So I thought, oh my gosh, okay, well, there's probably a message from Ryan. So I am going to grab my phone and go to sharedtears.com. So I grabbed my phone, 2 a.m., searched for sharedtears.com, and there wasn't one. It wasn't there. There was no site. And in that second, I just thought, God, I love that name. I love the idea. I love what Shared Tears represents. I just loved that name. And I thought, gosh, I wonder if that domain name is available. And mind you, this is all just like 2 a.m. The last time that I searched for a domain name is when I was going through my cancer treatment that was 2009. And during my treatment period, I thought it would be a good time to teach myself how to build a website. And I created a really massive inspirational website back then. And I used a certain company to secure the domain name. So I wondered if they were even still in business. I remembered the name, and they were. And so I searched their site for sharedtears.com, and it was available. Now, I don't know how many of you have tried to secure a domain name that really just encapsulates whatever it is your creative vision is, but it is not an easy task. You think that you have original ideas? Well, wait till you try to secure the domain name that you really, really want. It's not as easy as just punching it in and having it be available. So I thought, what? So I ran down the hall and grabbed my credit card. And I decided to go ahead and purchase sharedtears.com, .net, .org, .everything, and decide later what I was going to do with it all. This was, like I said, about 6 months after Ryan passed away. The first year, moving through that loss, was a year I think that most of us were still in shock. It was a horrible period where I'm an independent contractor, and I did not have any bereavement days that I could afford to take. I took one day off the day before my son's service, and I found out that he passed on a Saturday, and on Monday I had to show up at work. And I showed up every single day and worked full days. Now, I didn't get on conference calls for the first couple of weeks, and people were very, very supportive of what I was going through. But in a very short period of time, it's back to business as usual. And for those of you who are having to work through a life-shattering loss, I know you understand when it is the most exhausting thing. And it's like surreal because, first of all, you have to go about your day to day as if nothing happened. Meet your deadlines, take care of your responsibilities, interact with clients as if nothing happened. And that inauthentic facade is exhausting by itself. Just not being real is very exhausting, I find. I'm a person who doesn't do well not just being myself. So putting on airs or being inauthentic is very exhausting. On top of that, you're just carrying the weight of your pain, an indescribable agony, for me anyway. At that time was just, there were no words to describe the pain. And to carry on as if nothing happened, when inside you are shattered into a million pieces and your life is never going to be the same, and you're just wondering if you're going to recognize the person that is left as you move through those, especially those early days. So the first year was just excruciating. And I think we were still much of the time in shock. At least I was. The second year for me was almost worse than the first, in that it's when the reality of the permanent nature of his absence in our lives really started to sink in. And that was hell. And it was in the second year that I started to panic a little bit that maybe I would never, ever feel authentic emotions other than pain again for the rest of my life. I really was terrified about that. I did not know how to reconnect to those feelings of joy, of just kind of a lightheartedness approach to anything in life anymore. Everything just felt heavy with pain still by the second year. I found a book by someone named Kyle Gray. It was a book called Angel Prayers, and it was full of beautiful words, sentiment that I wanted to be connected to emotionally. You can find multiple prayers and affirmations that are worded so beautifully. And what I did for 6 months straight, every single morning, the first thing I did, I would start my coffee and I would light a candle and I would pick a few affirmations out of that beautiful book, and I would just recite those affirmations, whatever it is that I wanted to connect to and feel. I wasn't feeling anything, but I thought I'll just fake it till I make it. And I thought I'll just keep reciting until I actually begin to feel the words that I'm speaking. And it took time, but eventually I started to feel stirrings. And I think it was really, really helpful to recite words that I wanted to feel until I actually began to feel them again. In the beginning, I couldn't even formulate the words because I was so disconnected. I was so empty of all emotion other than the pain of losing Ryan. And I know that that was normal. And I just really want everyone who's going through it especially in those early days, just be gentle on yourself because it really does take a lot of work and effort to move through significant loss. Whatever type of loss you're going through, there are so many things, so many challenges that our human experience subjects us to. And just be gentle with yourself as you move through it. It was about the third year that I started to get that stirring of I really needed to get moving and figure out what I was going to use the domain name for. Was it going to be a bereavement website? Initially, I was leaning towards that. And then people that know me know that I love to talk, that I am a person who loves to engage, to share, to hear stories, to learn, to follow my curiosity. And some suggested that maybe a YouTube channel might be something that we could use that domain name for as well. And because I have a literal phobia about being in front of a camera, that was a no starter from the beginning. So then my other son, Alex, suggested that maybe I could just do an audio only version, which that sounded like a possibility. Anyway, there was a lot of back and forth. We decided to start a production company, Moonlit Bridge Productions. And so that was the next step. I built a website for sharetears.com and decided to go ahead and get a YouTube channel. And also we set up for audio only host as well. And then I didn't do much with it for quite a few months after that. But yet I still had this very strong inclination of really wanting to make a difference. And so many things were happening in our world too that people were challenged by. And I just thought, gosh, there's so much to talk about. There's so much that we could help each other get through. I needed to take some time to reimagine how we wanted to use the space in the environment that we now found ourselves in, and decide if we had something to offer that would be of benefit to anybody in this climate. And after a few months of really looking at all different angles, like I told you, I'm not a skim across the surface kind of person. I really had to be thoughtful because this project is sacred to me. It's connected to the memory of my son, and I want to do it right. And I know how busy each and every one of you who are tuning in each week, how busy your lives are and how much you are carrying. And I want to make it worth your time when you take time to join me each week. So I really needed to think about what it is that we were going to bring and get crystal clear on that vision. And I ultimately decided that there were plenty of very skilled independent reporters that were doing a great job reporting all of the breaking news all day long, every day, and sifting through all of that. That energy feels very chaotic and very heavy to me. It's too much. So I thought I can't really touch on all the challenges that people are facing each day in our country and around the world as a result. It's too much, and I'm not skilled for that, and I think we'll just leave that to others who are doing a great job. And if I could put their links on my website and on my YouTube channel to help promote what it is that they are sharing, then I certainly will do that. So, what would it be that we could bring to bear? And where I really started to notice my attention was just watching the peaceful protests that were taking place across our country with literally millions and millions of people coming together of all ages, all persuasions, peacefully exercising their constitutional right to peacefully assemble and protest. And I felt encouraged by that, and I felt energized by their efforts. And I want to tell each and every one of you who continue to do that, thank you. Thank you for taking the time to stand up for our Constitution and our democracy. Thank you all so much. And thank you for doing it peacefully. So I found that I was feeling encouraged by that. I also enjoyed listening to people who were setting up support networks for people who were now experiencing food insecurity, that were at risk of losing their shelter, their homes. I wanted to be able to promote their courageous and compassionate acts. I felt like, oh gosh, I wish I could interview them, or I wish I could go ahead and somehow spotlight their efforts and help to promote what it is that they were doing for others. And it felt good to be reminded of what true courage, what true compassion, what true caring for your fellow man looks like. And, the golden rule in action. And so I thought this is what I would like to use this space for. And that would be to interview people, have them share their stories, their event, the tragedy that ultimately fueled a new chapter in their life that was full of purpose, that was the catalyst for courageous and compassionate actions, that became their purpose greater than the pain of the weight of their loss. So I plan on using this space for that aim, to never let us forget, no matter how much darkness sometimes feels like is pushing down around us, that we can amplify our light in a lot of amazing ways, bring attention to the best of humanity during challenging times, and to be reminded of how we have the power and the opportunity to channel the energy of our grief, of our outrage, of our anxiety, whatever that energy is. We have the opportunity to channel it in a direction that can be of help to others. And so this is how I would like to use this channel in memory of my son, in ways that will remind us of what it looks like to step into the best of who we can be, and what true kindness, what true courage, what true compassion truly looks like. And so that's where we're going to spend a lot of our energy. And I hope to introduce you to some really inspiring and amazing people that will give you hope on your journey. And if you would like to share your story as a guest on Share Tears podcast, you can visit our website at www.sharetears.com and go to the contact section, and there's any number of ways for you to reach out if you would like to perhaps be a guest on the show. I'm going to be conducting most of my interviews via Zoom, so if you're comfortable in that format, that's how we would do it. That way, it doesn't matter where anyone lives or time zones, we'll make it work. So if you would like to be a guest, if you would like to receive notifications of future episode uploads. We don't have a production schedule yet. I'm kind of just seeing how things go in terms of the holidays are approaching, which is another thing I want to talk about before I get off track. I really want to say to each and every one of you who are in a very challenging space this holiday season, wishing you and your loved ones the very best, sending love and blessings to all of you. Please be gentle with yourself if you're going through it right now. Like I said, there's no easy way through these challenging times. Just listen to your internal stirrings and honor your emotions. Don't try to run and hide from them. And you will get through this. You will get through this. You're not alone. We're all in this together. We're each a human being doing the best we can during these very, very challenging times. Please take a moment to subscribe if you haven't already. It helps to support the channel. And also, if you think that this episode might be beneficial to someone that you care about, please take a moment and share. So again, thank you so much for tuning in. I know I still have so much to learn, and this was a very, very hard episode to share, and in the future it's going to be about my guest stories. And so please keep tuning in. I'll get better as I go, and I will do my very best to make sure that you will not be wasting your time by tuning in. So thank you so much. Thank you for listening, and thank you for supporting our channel in any way that you're able. Talk to you soon.